What's up, guys? Welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and everything in between. Hope you're all doing awesome today. Be sure to subscribe if you're new here, and as usual, we're getting right into today's Reddit posts. Entitled Mom blocks the road so her kids can ride their bikes. This happened earlier, and I need a second to rant. I'm driving in my neighborhood and slowly come up to a random lady just standing in the middle of the road. She holds her hand out at me like she's the Queen of England. At first, my brain didn't even process what she was doing, so I drove closer, trying to get near enough to ask what the hell was going on. At first, I actually thought maybe there was an accident or something happened, to where she decided it was necessary to block traffic. But when I approached, she started to scream at me, so I rolled down my window and yelled back, "Why are you in the middle of the street?" Keep in mind this is truly the middle of a random road. There wasn't a crosswalk or any pedestrian signs, and the traffic is relatively busy both ways for a neighborhood. She barks, "My kids are riding their bikes." Indeed, after driving closer, it was dusk. She has two kids riding around just in the midst of traffic. I say, "There's not a crosswalk here," to which she doesn't have a retort. We go back and forth for a bit while several other cars zoom by. But she's preoccupied with yelling at me and seems to have forgotten her poor children are just standing by waiting for her to blow off steam. I honestly felt sorry for them. After a lot of back and forth with her getting in my face and basically threatening me, I just drive around her because I was over it. She calls me a nasty name as I leave, so I call her one back. You know, wanting to keep your kids safe is fine and all that, but this is not the way to go about it. If they want to ride their bikes, either make sure they stay on the sidewalk or take them to a damn park or something. But don't let them ride around in a busy road and then take it upon yourself to be traffic control. I highly doubt she's qualified to safely direct traffic. And this whole situation honestly just sounds super dangerous for both her kids and for drivers. I mean, don't get me wrong, kids playing in the street in suburban areas where there's not much traffic definitely isn't unheard of, and can be totally acceptable within reason as long as people move out of the way when cars do appear. But based on OP's description, it sounds like this road is probably a bit too busy for that to be okay. Retired cop traveler at airport attempted to detain me. A buddy of mine and myself had planned vacations in Vegas a week apart. We would save money on the long-distance parking by 1. Me dropping him off, 2. I drive myself, parking in short-term parking. He arrives that night after I let him know the parking spot. He picks me up the next week. Part 2 unravels quickly. I decided to cruise by the drop-off lane at CLE Airport. They had outdoor check-in stations. If the Continental one was busy, I'd go park and drag my baggage back. No one in sight. You aren't allowed to leave a car unattended, but I'm 40 feet away, check my bags, and I'm done in 3 minutes. I turn to see a cop by my car writing a ticket. I run up and ask him nicely to stop and apologize for my mistake. He said he yelled out asking whose car this was, but I didn't hear anything. Cue an older guy in baggage check-in at one airline over. He walks over and says, "Good job, officer. That guy was inside for a long time." I tell him to mind his own business. The cop hands me this ticket and disappears. The guy keeps walking towards me and says I deserve that ticket. I'm now pissed as my plan of saving money on parking has failed, and I'm down at least $100 before I get to Vegas. I tell the guy to F off as I get in my car. He grabs my door and yells, "Get out and show me some ID." I say, "Take your hand off my door or I'm kicking your ass." He says, "I'm a retired Cleveland police officer and you better get out now and show ID." I laughed and said, "You have 3 seconds to take your hand off my car door or I'm f***ing you up." His wife came running and yelled at him to stop it and come back in line. P.S. I have no idea where the real cop disappeared to. Okay, we'll put a gate up, just not where you expected. Over the early 2000s, we parceled up and sold a bunch of our old farmland for property development, creating a little cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac was at the bottom of a steep hill, and parallel to it was a main road that went down to a beach at the very bottom of the hill. Between the cul-de-sac and the main road was a set of apartments we rented out, their gardens, and the beach shortcut. The beach shortcut was an old gate, about the width of a person, a sort of back entrance to the property from the days of yore. This allowed people coming up from the beach on foot access without having to go all the way to the top of the steep hill to the main entrance. We left this area undeveloped and retained ownership of it, creating a small green belt and shortcut to the residents of the cul-de-sac and the apartments. This belt was about 20 feet wide and 60 feet long. The kids from one of the families in the cul-de-sac started using it as a play area. They'd play ball games there, which sometimes resulted in balls getting kicked out onto the road and down the hill. This family was overall a pain in the ass. They lived right at the very bottom of the cul-de-sac, and were terrible for paying maintenance fees late and complaining about the other residents. Anyway, we kind of let this slide, until the family asked if we could put a gate on the entrance to stop the kids from going out on the road after their ball. Now, this request presented a few problems. Mainly, the kids would likely just jump over the wall and get out there anyway. We suggested that maybe they could tell their kids just not to play on our property, but the family refused, stating that it was up to us to make it safe for their kids. The thing is, this is a fair point. If the kids fell or injured themselves in the area, then we'd probably be liable. So we kind of had to comply. But not only that, we had to make sure the kids were not in danger on our property at all. We actually had to go a step further than they anticipated. We had to fence the kids out of the property entirely. So yeah, we fenced off the entire green belt from the cul-de-sac. A huge 8-foot wooden structure with a door with a key code on it. We informed them that the door was to separate our private property from the public area, and the code was only given to the apartment residents, and cul-de-sac residents we liked better than that family. So not only were their kids prevented from playing there entirely, but the family no longer had access to the shortcut and had to climb the steep hill out to the main gate when going to and from the beach. In fact, this extended trip arguably made it more dangerous for the kids, as they now had to spend longer on the road and pass a pretty busy T-junction during these trips. The moral of the story is that if you have a neighbor that turns a blind eye to you using a part of their property, don't make it hard to keep turning that blind eye. Kneecapped a Karen in front of a cop. This happened several years ago when I worked as a construction project manager for a company that serviced retail POS systems. The job was for everything from add or remove a register to installing all of the electronics in a newly constructed store. One year, I took camping/off-road vacation in a remote area and was supposed to meet some friends. They called to inform me they were about 6 hours late. Since I knew some people at the local grocery store I had recently finished doing the IT remodeling for, I walked over to say hi. When I got there, I found that half of their front end was down. The manager asked if I could help, and since I was just killing time, I told him yes if my boss approved the overtime. Anyone who worked in the field was paid hourly. The overtime was approved, and it quickly became apparent that the cleaning contractor had dismantled registers, violating their contract the night before to make it easier to clean. I fixed all but 2 lanes, and those had damaged power and data cables. I told the manager I could fix them with parts from the local True Value and Radio Shack if he would reimburse me. I also asked if I could park my truck in the vendor-only spot, since his parking lot was full and I would need some tools I carried in my truck. He agreed, so I got in my truck, picked up the items I needed, and parked in the vendor spot. This is important. Both registers needed the cabinets dismantled in order to replace the damaged cables. I fixed the first lane and got it operational. Then I moved to the second lane, which was right in front of the customer service desk. I made sure the closed sign was up, and had a 6-wheeled cart that was loaded with a special order placed to block the register. I was lying under the register belt in order to connect the new cables to the register base, when someone kicked me. They kicked me again, so I lashed out with a steel-toed boot and hit a Karen in the knee, dropping her screaming briefly as she was knocked out when she hit her head on the cart she had moved. What happened was she decided that my lane should be open, moved the cart, tossed the closed sign on the floor, and kicked me for ignoring her. What she failed to notice was that there was a local cop at the customer service desk asking if they wanted the lifted truck in the vendor spot ticketed. The manager was directing him to where I was to see if it was mine, and they both saw the woman kicking me. The cop called an ambulance for Karen and then asked if I wanted to press charges, which I did. The store also pressed charges, as she had been banned and was violating a no trespass order. She later pled guilty to the trespass and a misdemeanor assault charge after being informed that a police officer witnessed the attack and security camera recorded it. My employer's legal team informed me that I was being subpoenaed for a deposition because she was suing both companies for compensation for my having broken her kneecap and giving her a concussion. A week later, I was told this was cancelled, as the judge had dismissed the case with prejudice due to her having initiated the violence, according to the police report. We have no buffet here. My guy and I have a favorite Asian restaurant around the corner from us. We drop by a few times a month because the food is great, the servers are so kind, and the owner always stops by the table to sit with us and talk. It's like going to a friend's house. We stopped by last Thursday for dinner and saw a "We have no buffet" laminated sign on the door. When the owner came over to chat and we asked her about it, she took a deep sigh, rolled her eyes, and pulled up a chair. Apparently, since she opened the place 25 years ago, people have come in expecting an Asian buffet. She's never had one. People looked around, saw that it's a small place and no buffet. They'd leave. She said that's changed, however. She said she's been getting a continual stream of those old people who check in with the hostess, are shown to a table and given menus. The server comes over with flatware, water, and tea. She gives them a minute and comes back. "We'll have the buffet," they say. Nowhere on the menu is a buffet listed. Look around at the 8 other tables and 6 booths. No buffet. The owner says that these folks always come back with, "What do you mean you got no buffet? All Chinese places have a buffet." They have a tantrum, get mouthy with the server, occasionally getting racist while they're at it, and storm out. But it doesn't end there. Even with the sign, the owner says she still has boomers read the sign, approach the hostess, and ask, "Why don't you have a buffet? The sign says you don't have a buffet." Don't touch my effing mask. My husband has stage 4 cancer. My entire household has diligently worn N95s since March of 2020. I went to the library today. While waiting to check out some movies, an older woman asked me a question. When I turned to answer her, she got offended by my mask, said, "Oh, you don't need that," and tried to pull it off my effing face. She got really angry when I instinctively smacked her hand away, asked me, "What's wrong with you?" And then she tried again. I'm friendly with most of the librarians. They know the family situation. When the one behind the counter saw what was going on, he told her to leave me alone and said he was going to ban her if she tried again. She subsided to a dull rumble of pissy bitch and angry glares. I've been mocked for wearing a mask. I've been screamed at from a car. I've had the strap snapped like a bra strap. I'm tired. Alright guys, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe for more Reddit content. So take care. I'll see you in the next one.